The wedding of the decade was supposed to be Catherine Whitmore's masterpiece, the day she finally erased her son's shameful past and secured the family legacy. She had orchestrated every detail with the precision of a military general, from the imported orchids to the champagne that cost more per bottle than most people earned in a month. But Catherine's plan had one final delicious touch of cruelty. She wanted to invite her son's ex-girlfriend, the girl she had driven away 3 years ago, just to watch her squirm in the back row while her son married into proper society. Catherine wanted a witness to her triumph, someone to see that she had been right all along. Instead, she invited a reckoning that would shatter her perfect world into 1,000 irreparable pieces. When those chapel doors opened, the ex didn't walk in broken and defeated. She walked in carrying a secret that would turn the wedding into a funeral for Catherine's carefully constructed lies, and what happened next would become the most talked about scandal in the city's history. This is the story of how one woman's arrogance became her complete and utter destruction. If you love stories of karma, revenge, and justice being served cold, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another dramatic tale. Now let's dive into this story. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning, sliding through the mail slot of apartment 4B like a serpent entering paradise. Maya Chen stood in her small kitchen, coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips, staring at the cream-colored envelope that sat on her worn welcome mat. The paper was expensive, the kind that whispered old money and exclusivity. Her name was written in gold calligraphy, so perfect it looked printed. But Maya knew better. Catherine Whitmore would never use printed labels for something like this. Every insult had to be handcrafted. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she bent down to pick it up. 3 years. It had been 3 years since she'd heard the Whitmore name. 3 years since she'd walked away from the only man she'd ever loved, because his mother had made it clear that a girl from the wrong side of the tracks would never be good enough for her precious son. 3 years since the night Ethan had sat across from her in this very kitchen, tears streaming down his face, and told her that he couldn't fight his mother anymore. She remembered every word of that conversation, every crack in his voice when he said he loved her, but love wasn't enough. His mother controlled everything, the family business, his trust fund, his entire future, and she had given him an ultimatum: marry someone suitable or be disowned completely. Maya had understood. She had even told him it was okay, that she didn't blame him, but inside, her heart had crumbled into dust. What she hadn't told him, what she couldn't tell him because by then his phone number was already blocked, and his mother had made sure Maya couldn't reach him, was that she was pregnant. 6 weeks pregnant with twins. Now, holding this invitation, Maya felt a cold fury settle into her bones. She opened the envelope carefully, sliding out the thick cardstock. Ethan Whitmore and Isabella Rothschild request the honor of your presence at their wedding ceremony. The date was set for 2 months from now. At the bottom, in Catherine's distinctive handwriting, was a personal note. Dear Maya, I thought you should see what becomes of people who know their place. Do come. We've saved you a seat where you belong, in the very back. Regards, Catherine Whitmore. The invitation wasn't just an insult. It was a calculated attack designed to make Maya feel small, to remind her that she had lost and Catherine had won. But Catherine Whitmore had made a critical error. She had poked a mama bear who had spent 3 years building herself up from nothing, and that mama bear had claws. Maya walked to the doorway of the second bedroom in her modest apartment. Inside, 2 identical 3-year-old boys were still asleep, tangled together in their twin bed like puppies. They had Ethan's dark hair, his strong jawline, his deep brown eyes that could look right through you, but they had Maya's determination, her fire, her refusal to give up even when the world said she should. Oliver stirred first, his little hand reaching out automatically to make sure his brother was still there. Then Leo's eyes fluttered open, and within seconds, both boys were awake, chattering to each other in the private language twins sometimes share. "Mama," Leo called out, spotting her in the doorway. His face broke into a sunshine smile that made Maya's heart squeeze. "Are we having pancakes?" "Not today, baby," Maya said, walking in and sitting on the edge of their bed. "Today, we're going shopping." Oliver's eyes went wide. "For toys?" "For something better," Maya said, smoothing down their matching cowlicks. "For fancy clothes. Because we're going to a party. A really, really important party." Over the next 8 weeks, Maya worked with a focus that bordered on obsession. She had built a good life for herself and the boys, working as a senior architect at a mid-sized firm while finishing her master's degree at night. She'd done it all without a penny from the Whitmores, fueled by spite and maternal instinct in equal measure. But now she needed more than just stability. She needed to look like she'd never needed them at all. Her best friend, Jen, who worked in fashion PR, helped her find the perfect dress. It was midnight blue silk that pooled like water, elegant but not trying too hard, expensive but not gaudy. The kind of dress that whispered confidence rather than screaming for attention. For the boys, she found matching charcoal grey suits with tiny bow ties that made them look like miniature gentlemen. The day before the wedding, Maya took the boys to her parents' house. Her father, a retired postal worker, looked at the fancy invitation on the kitchen table and shook his head. "You sure about this, Miha? You don't owe these people anything." "This isn't about them, Papa," Maya said quietly, watching her sons play with their grandfather's old chess set in the living room. "This is about Oliver and Leo. They deserve to know where they come from, even if where they come from tried to throw us away like garbage." Her mother, ever practical, handed her a folder. "I made copies," she said. "Birth certificates, DNA test results you had done last year, medical records, everything. If that Bruja tries to say those boys aren't Whitmores, you show her this." Maya hugged her mother tight, breathing in the familiar smell of her perfume and feeling, for just a moment, like a scared 22-year-old again, instead of the woman she'd become. Then she squared her shoulders, kissed her parents goodbye, and headed home to prepare for battle. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect weather that seemed specifically designed to mock the chaos about to unfold. Maya dressed carefully, applying her makeup with precision, styling her hair in an elegant updo that showed off the delicate gold earrings she'd bought for the occasion. When she helped Oliver and Leo into their little suits, both boys seemed to sense that something important was happening. They stood still, unusually quiet, as she tied their bow ties and combed their hair. "You look like little princes," Maya told them, her voice thick, with emotion. "Do you remember what Mama told you about today?" "We're meeting someone," Oliver said seriously. "Someone who looks like us." "That's right," Maya confirmed. "And no matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, I want you to remember that you are smart, you are loved, and you are exactly who you're supposed to be." "Okay?" "Okay, Mama," both boys chorused. The drive to the Whitmore estate took 45 minutes, each mile taking Maya further from the modest neighborhood where she'd built her life and closer to the world that had rejected her. The estate itself was exactly as she remembered, sprawling and ostentatious, with manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain each month than Maya's rent. The gate was open, with valets directing the arriving guests to the parking area. Maya's sensible sedan looked painfully out of place among the Bentleys and Mercedes, but she held her head high as she pulled up. A valet approached, his professional smile faltering slightly when he saw her car. She could read his thoughts as clearly as if he'd spoken them out loud. "This one must be lost." "Welcome to the Whitmore wedding," the valet said, his tone just slightly condescending. "If you're with the catering staff, the service entrance is around back." "I'm a guest," Maya said coolly, stepping out of the car in her silk dress and heels. The valet's eyes widened slightly as she walked around to open the back door, revealing two perfectly dressed little boys who were clearly not catering staff. Oliver and Leo climbed out carefully, remembering Maya's instructions about keeping their suits clean. Each boy took one of Maya's hands, and together they walked toward the entrance of the massive white tent that had been erected behind the main house. Maya could feel eyes on them immediately. Guests in their expensive clothes turned to look, their conversations faltering mid-sentence. She knew what they saw, a young woman who was clearly beautiful, but didn't quite fit, and two little boys who looked eerily, impossibly familiar. Inside the tent, the setup was breathtaking. White roses and orchids were everywhere, woven through gauzy fabric that caught the light like morning mist. Crystal chandeliers hung from the tent's ceiling, refracting rainbow light across the assembled guests. The chairs were white with gold ribbons, arranged in perfect rows, leading to an altar draped in more flowers than Maya had ever seen in one place. At the front, she could see Ethan standing, with his groomsmen. Even from the back of the tent, she could see how handsome he looked in his tuxedo, how he kept nervously adjusting his bow tie. He looked older, more serious, but still fundamentally the same man she'd loved, the same man who had chosen his trust fund over their future. Catherine Whitmore was holding court near the front row, resplendent in a silver gown that probably cost more than a car. She was laughing at something one of her society friends had said, her head thrown back, every inch the triumphant queen of her domain. She hadn't noticed Maya yet. The ceremony was scheduled to begin in 15 minutes. An usher, young and overly groomed, approached Maya with a professional smile. "Good afternoon. Bride or groom?" "Groom," Maya said calmly. The usher glanced down at his seating chart. "I don't see your name on the list. Are you sure you RSVP'd?" "I received a personal invitation from Mrs. Whitmore," Maya replied, her voice carrying just enough to make nearby guests turn and look. The usher's smile became strained. "I see. Well, let me just check with." He trailed off as his eyes landed on Oliver and Leo for the first time. Really landed on them, taking in their faces, their eyes, the unmistakable resemblance to the groom standing at the altar. The usher's face went pale. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Exactly," Maya said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Now, I believe Mrs. Whitmore mentioned something about a seat in the back." The usher stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. I'll just," he stammered, then fled toward the front of the tent. Maya watched him go, watched him lean down to whisper frantically in Catherine's ear. She saw Catherine's head snap around, saw the moment those cold blue eyes locked onto her. The colour drained from Catherine's face so fast, Maya thought she might faint. It was a look of pure, undiluted horror, the expression of someone watching their carefully constructed house of cards begin to collapse. "Good," Maya thought savagely. "Let it begin." Catherine Whitmore recovered quickly, her decades of social training snapping into place like armour. She said something sharp to the usher, who scurried away, then rose from her seat with the grace of a panther preparing to pounce. Maya could see her moving through the crowd, making her way toward the back of the tent with purposeful strides. Their eyes met across the sea of white chairs and curious guests. In that moment, 1,000 unspoken words passed between them. Accusations, justifications, and the bitter truth that they were about to have a confrontation 3 years in the making. Catherine reached Maya's position, and up close, Maya could see the barely controlled fury in her eyes. She also saw something else, fear. "Miss Chen," Catherine said, her voice low and venomous. "What a surprise. I didn't expect you to actually accept my invitation." "Your invitation was quite compelling," Maya replied evenly. "I thought it would be rude not to come. And of course I had to bring Ethan's sons." The word sons fell like a bomb. Several nearby guests gasped audibly. Catherine's jaw clenched so hard Maya could see the muscle jumping in her cheek. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Catherine hissed, "if you think you can come here with some ridiculous claim." "These are not claims, Mrs. Whitmore," Maya said, her voice calm but loud enough to be overheard. "These are facts, Meet Oliver and Leo. They turned 4 last month, she gestured, down at the boys, who were staring up at Catherine with wide, curious eyes. The resemblance to Ethan was so strong it was almost uncanny, like someone had taken photographs of Ethan as a child and brought them to life. Catherine's face cycled through several expressions in rapid succession: shock, rage, calculation. Her hand flew to her chest, clutching at the pearls around her neck as if they could anchor her to reality. "You," she started, her voice shaking. "You will leave immediately, or I will have security remove you." "On what grounds?" Maya challenged. "I was invited. I have the invitation with me if you'd like to see it. Your handwriting is quite distinctive." A murmur was spreading through the crowd now, rippling outward from their confrontation like waves from a stone dropped in still water. Guests were pulling out their phones, some clearly already texting or recording. The digital age meant that whatever happened here would be immortalized forever. Catherine seemed to realize this. Her expression shifted again, becoming pleading, almost desperate. "Maya," she said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Please, don't do this. Not here. Not today." "You invited me here to humiliate me," Maya said quietly, leaning in so only Catherine could hear. "You wanted me to sit in the back and watch your son marry someone you deemed worthy. You wanted to rub my face in what I'd lost. But you made a mistake, Catherine. You forgot that actions have consequences." Before Catherine could respond, a commotion at the front of the tent drew everyone's attention. Ethan had apparently noticed the disturbance. He was staring toward the back, his face confused, trying to see what was causing the disruption. Then the crowd parted slightly, and he saw her. Maya watched Ethan's face change in real time. First confusion, then recognition, then shock so profound he actually staggered backward. His best man grabbed his arm to steady him. Ethan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "No," words came out. But his eyes, those deep brown eyes Maya had once loved so much, were fixed on the 2 little boys holding her hands. Boys who had his face, his eyes, his everything. The music that had been playing softly in the background stopped abruptly. The minister, standing at the altar, looked around in confusion. The guests, sensing drama of the highest order, had gone almost completely silent, leaning forward in their seats to better see and hear. Maya took a breath, squeezed her son's hands, and began walking down the center aisle, not toward the back where Catherine had intended her to sit in shame, but straight toward the front, toward Ethan, toward the truth that had been buried for 3 years. Her heels clicked against the temporary flooring laid over the grass. Click, click, click. Each step was a declaration. Each step was justice. Catherine tried to grab her arm as she passed, but Maya smoothly sidestepped her. Oliver and Leo walked beside their mother with perfect composure, their little faces serious and trusting. Ethan stepped off the altar platform, nearly tripping over the steps. He walked toward them as if pulled by an invisible string, his face a mask of confusion and dawning realization. They met in the middle of the aisle, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses, with the sun streaming through the translucent tent walls like a spotlight on a stage. "Maya," Ethan breathed. His voice was hoarse, broken. "What? How? Hello, Ethan," Maya said calmly. "I received an invitation from your mother. I thought it only right to accept, and I thought you should finally meet your sons. Oliver, Leo, this is Ethan." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He dropped to his knees right there in the middle of the aisle, bringing himself to eye level with the boys. Oliver and Leo looked at him with the frank, assessing stare that children have, the one that seems to see straight into your soul. "You look like us," Leo observed matter-of-factly. Ethan let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "I do, don't I?" His hands reached out, then hesitated, hovering in the air. "Can I? May I?" The boys looked to Maya for permission. She nodded slightly, and Leo stepped forward, allowing Ethan to touch his face gently, reverently, as if he were made of glass. Oliver remained slightly more cautious, staying close to Maya's side. "How old?" Ethan asked, his voice cracking. 4, Maya said. "They turned 4 last month, March 15th. Ethan did the math quickly, his face going even paler as he realized the timing lined up perfectly with when they'd broken up. "You were, when we..." He couldn't finish the sentence. "6 weeks pregnant when you told me to leave," Maya confirmed. "I tried to tell you. I called your phone. I called the estate. I sent letters. Your mother made sure none of them reached you. She told me if I ever tried to contact you again, she'd destroy me." The gathered crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. Phones were everywhere now, recording every second. Ethan spun around to look at his mother. Catherine stood frozen, her face a mask of aristocratic disdain, but her hands were shaking. He looked at her with an expression of such betrayal that several guests actually winced. "Mother," Ethan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Tell me she's lying. Tell me you didn't do this." Catherine lifted her chin defiantly. "I did what was necessary to protect you from a mistake that would have ruined your life. I did what any mother would do. You kept my children from me." Ethan's roar echoed through the tent. He rose to his feet, his whole body shaking with rage. "You let me believe she'd just moved on, that she'd forgotten about me. You told me she'd found someone else immediately. I believed you, Mother. I trusted you. And all this time, I had sons. I had a family. And you stole them from me." "Ethan," Catherine started forward, her hand outstretched. "Darling, please, you have to understand." "Stay away from me," Ethan said, his voice cold and flat. He turned back to Maya and the boys. His face was streaked with tears, mascara from where he'd cried. "I didn't know," he said to Maya, his voice breaking. "God, Maya, I swear I didn't know. If I'd had even the slightest idea." "I know," Maya said softly, "and that's why I'm here. Not to stop your wedding or ruin your life. I built my own life, Ethan. A good one. The boys are happy and healthy and loved. But your mother sent me an invitation to mock me, to show me that you'd moved on to someone more suitable. So I decided to show her exactly what she cost you, what she cost all of us." At that moment, a new voice cut through the charged atmosphere. "What the hell is going on?" Isabella Rothschild, the bride, had emerged from the bridal suite adjacent to the tent. She was a vision in white lace and silk, her dark hair swept up in an elaborate style, her makeup flawless. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, right up until she saw the scene in front of her. Isabella's eyes went from Ethan on his knees to Maya standing tall, to the 2 little boys who were unmistakably, heartbreakingly, Ethan's children. Her bouquet of white roses dropped from her hands, hitting the ground with a soft thud. "Ethan," she said, her voice high and tight. "Who are they?" "Isabella," Ethan started, rising to his feet but seeming unable to form words. "These are my sons," he finally managed. I never. I just found out." Isabella's face crumpled. She looked from Ethan to Catherine, then back to Maya. "You knew about this?" she asked Catherine, her voice rising. "You knew he had children, and you let me. You let us." "The wedding is off," Isabella announced, her voice ringing clear through the tent. She turned on her heel and marched back toward the bridal suite, her train dragging behind her through the grass. Her maid of honor and bridesmaids scrambled to follow, shooting shocked glances back at the chaos. The guests erupted into full chaos now, everyone talking at once. Some people were standing, trying to get a better view. Others were frantically typing on their phones. This was going to be all over social media within minutes. Catherine seemed to snap out of her shocked paralysis. "Security!" she shrieked. "Remove this woman immediately. She's trespassing. She's disrupting a private event." "I'm not going anywhere," Maya said calmly. And if you want to talk about disruption, perhaps we should discuss how you illegally accessed my medical records 3 years ago. She pulled a folder from her small clutch. Somehow she'd managed to carry it this whole time, and held it up. I have documentation proving that you bribed a records clerk at the hospital where I received my prenatal care. You knew about the twins from my very first ultrasound, Catherine. You knew, and you deliberately kept that information from your son, so he'd go through with this marriage to merge the Whitmore and Rothschild fortunes. Ethan turned to his mother, and if he'd looked betrayed before, now he looked absolutely devastated. You knew, he whispered, from the beginning? You let me walk away from the woman I loved, the mother of my children, and you knew the whole time. I protected our family's legacy, Catherine said, but her voice had lost its commanding tone. She sounded almost pleading now. That girl had nothing to offer you, Ethan. No connections, no money, no breeding. The Rothschild marriage would have secured our position for generations. I don't care about our position. Ethan shouted. I don't care about the damn legacy. I cared about Maya. I loved her. I grieved her. And I have sons, Mother. Sons I've never held. Birthdays I've never celebrated. First words I never heard. You didn't just steal from me. You stole from them. He gestured to Oliver and Leo, who were watching the adult drama with wide, uncertain eyes. Maya knelt down between her boys, pulling them close. It's okay, she murmured to them. Everything's okay. Are you the bad man? Oliver asked Ethan, his small voice cutting through the chaos. The question, so innocent and yet so devastating, made Ethan flinch as if he'd been struck. No, baby, Maya said gently, but loud enough for everyone to hear. He's not a bad man. He's just a man who was lied to. He's your father, and he didn't know about you. But that's not your fault, or his fault. The fault belongs to someone else entirely. She looked up at Catherine as she said this last part, her gaze steel. Catherine's face had gone from red with rage to ashen. She seemed to realize, finally, that she had truly lost. The guests weren't looking at Maya with scorn. They were looking at Catherine with disgust. The phones recording weren't capturing a gold digger crashing a wedding. They were documenting a grandmother who had hidden her own grandchildren to preserve a business deal. One of the guests, an elderly woman in an elaborate hat, stood up. Shame on you, Catherine, the woman said, her voice carrying clearly. That woman had the dignity to raise those boys alone while you played puppet master. You should be on your knees thanking her for not demanding a penny from you. Several other guests murmured in agreement. The tide had completely turned. I'm leaving now, Maya announced, standing and taking her son's hands again. I came here because I was invited, and I stayed long enough to make sure the truth was told. Oliver, Leo, say goodbye. Goodbye, the boys chorused obediently. Wait, Ethan said desperately, reaching out. Maya, please, wait. Don't take them yet. I need. She turned back to him, her expression softening just slightly. My number hasn't changed in 3 years, Ethan. If you'd like to be part of their lives, call me. We'll talk. But on my terms, not your mother's. Am I clear? Crystal, Ethan said immediately. I'll call. Tomorrow. Today. Whenever you want. Just, please, don't disappear again. I won't disappear, Maya promised. But whether you're in their lives or not depends entirely on you now. Choose better than you did 3 years ago. With that, Maya turned and walked back down the aisle, her sons beside her, her head held high. Behind her, she left chaos, a cancelled wedding, a shattered family, and a social media storm that would dominate headlines for weeks. As she reached her car, Maya allowed herself one small, satisfied smile. Catherine Whitmore had invited her to witness a triumph. Instead, she'd been forced to witness her own downfall. Sometimes, Maya thought, as she buckled her boys into their car seats, karma doesn't need any help. It just needs an invitation. the fallout from the wedding that never was spread through the city's social circles like wildfire through dry brush. By the time Maya pulled into her apartment complex, her phone was already blowing up with calls from numbers she didn't recognize, reporters no doubt, and texts from friends who'd seen videos of the confrontation online. She turned her phone off and focused on her boys. The drive home had been quiet. Oliver and Leo, sensing their mother's emotional state and responding with the intuitive silence children sometimes display. Once inside their apartment, Maya helped them out of their little suits and into comfortable clothes. Then, she made them grilled cheese sandwiches and let them watch cartoons, needing the mundane comfort of routine to ground herself after the intensity of the day. It was only after the boys were fed and playing with their blocks that Maya allowed herself to sit on the couch and process what had happened. Her hands were shaking, the adrenaline finally wearing off, and she felt tears prick at her eyes. For 3 years, she'd been angry at Ethan, convinced he'd simply chosen money over love. To learn that Catherine had actively sabotaged her attempts to contact him, that she'd known about the pregnancy all along, it shifted something fundamental in Maya's understanding of the past. The buzzer for her apartment rang, making her jump. She wasn't expecting anyone, and she certainly wasn't in the mood for reporters. Maya walked to the intercom cautiously. "Yes? Maya, it's Ethan. Please, I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk? Just for a few minutes." Maya's finger hovered over the button. Every protective instinct screamed at her to send him away, to make him wait, to make him suffer even a fraction of what she'd suffered. But she thought about Oliver and Leo, about how they'd looked at their father with such curiosity, and she pressed the button to unlock the building door. She opened her apartment door and waited, listening to his footsteps climbing the stairs. When Ethan appeared in the hallway, he looked nothing like the polished groom from a few hours ago. He'd loosened his bow tie, his jacket was gone, and his hair was disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. His eyes were red-rimmed. Ethan stopped a few feet from her door, as if afraid to come closer without permission. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For seeing me." Maya leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You have 10 minutes, then the boys go to bed and you leave." "Understood." Ethan nodded. May I see them?" "They're playing in the living room." Maya stepped aside to let him in. "But Ethan, if you upset them, if you make them cry or scared, you're out." "I won't," he promised. Maya led him into her small living room. It was nothing like the mansion he'd grown up in, no priceless art or marble floors, just a comfortable couch, a well-loved rug, and toys scattered in organized chaos. Oliver and Leo looked up when they entered, their identical faces breaking into matching expressions of surprise. "It's the crying man," Leo announced to his brother. "He's not crying now," Oliver observed with a child's blunt honesty. Ethan laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. He sat down on the floor, cross-legged, making himself smaller and less threatening. "Hi guys," he said softly. "I'm Ethan, but if you want, you can call me Dad." "Maybe not, right away. Maybe when you're ready." "What's a dad?" Oliver asked, genuinely curious. Maya felt her heart crack a little. She'd explained that they had a father somewhere, that he didn't know about them, but the boys had never really grasped the concept. "A dad is," Ethan swallowed hard, trying to find words a 4-year-old would understand. "A dad is someone who loves you and takes care of you and plays with you. Like a mama, but different." "We have a grandpa," Leo offered. "He plays chess with us." "That's wonderful," Ethan said. "Grandpas are great. Dads are like that too." He looked up at Maya, his eyes pleading. Can I show them something?" Maya nodded slowly. Ethan pulled out his phone and swiped through it until he found what he was looking for. He turned the screen toward the boys. "This is a picture of me when I was your age," he said. Oliver and Leo crowded closer, their eyes going wide. "You look like us," Oliver exclaimed. "Or we look like you," Leo added thoughtfully. Exactly, Ethan said, his voice thick. Because I'm your dad. We have the same nose and the same eyes and probably the same favorite color. What's your favorite color? The boys asked simultaneously. Blue, Ethan said. Like the ocean. Ours is red, they announced in unison. Like fire trucks. Ethan laughed, genuine and warm this time. Well, that's okay. Dads and sons don't have to like all the same things. Can you build blocks with us? Leo asked suddenly, holding out a wooden block. If your mama says it's okay, Ethan looked to Maya. She found herself nodding, then sitting on the couch to watch as Ethan joined her sons on the floor, helping them build an elaborate tower that would inevitably be knocked down and rebuilt. It was such a simple scene, almost domestic, and yet it felt monumental. For 20 minutes, Maya watched the three of them play. Ethan was surprisingly good with them, patient when they argued over blocks, enthusiastic about their ideas, gentle when the tower fell. Eventually Maya cleared her throat. Time for bed, boys. Bath and teeth. Let's go. The twins groaned but obeyed, scrambling to their feet. Oliver paused, then walked over to Ethan and patted his shoulder with one small hand. You can come back, he announced. If you want. I want, Ethan said, his voice breaking, more than anything. Maya ushered the boys to the bathroom, starting their bedtime routine, while Ethan waited in the living room. When she returned, he was standing by the window, looking out at the city. Lights. Thank you, he said without turning around, for letting me see them, for not shutting me out completely after what my family did to you. Maya sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I didn't do it for you, she said honestly. I did it for them. Every child deserves to know their father if that father wants to know them. The question is, Ethan, do you actually want this? Or are you going to run back to your mother and your inheritance the first time things get difficult? Ethan turned to face her, and his expression was more serious than she'd ever seen it. I'm done with my mother, he said flatly. Done. She's not in my life anymore, and she never will be in theirs. As for my inheritance, he shrugged. I honestly don't care anymore. Money means nothing if it comes with strings attached by someone like her. My father died when I was young, and I let mother fill that void with control and manipulation. I can see that now. But I'm 30 years old, Maya. I have a business degree and 2 hands that work. I'll figure it out. Maya studied him, trying to determine if he was serious or just caught up in the emotion of the moment. What about Isabella? They're finished, Ethan said. We talked after you left. She's a good person, and she deserves better than what I could give her. The truth is, I never loved her the way I loved you. Mother arranged it. Isabella's father saw the business advantage, and I went along with it because it was easier than fighting. I convinced myself that was enough. But seeing you today, seeing our sons, Maya, I've been a coward. You've been manipulated, Maya corrected. There's a difference. But the question now is what happens next. I don't expect you to forgive me, Ethan said quickly. I don't expect us to just pick up where we left off. But I want to be a father to Oliver and Leo. I want to learn their favorite foods and their bedtimes and what makes them laugh. I want to be there for school plays and skinned knees and terrible drawings they make. Me, hang on my refrigerator. I want everything I missed, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything else. Maya felt tears threatening again. For 3 years, she'd dreamed of hearing these words, of Ethan fighting for them. But she'd also built walls around her heart, and they didn't come down easily. We'll start slow, she said finally. Supervised visits here at first. You can come by a few times a week, spend time with them, help with bedtime maybe. If that goes well, we'll increase it. But, Ethan, if you hurt them, if you let them down, there won't be a second chance. Understood. I won't let them down, Ethan promised. And Maya, I won't let you down either. Not again. Before Maya could respond, her phone, which she'd turned back on, started ringing. She glanced at the screen, and her stomach dropped. It was a number she recognized, Catherine Whitmore's personal line. "Don't answer it," Ethan said immediately. "She'll just try to manipulate the situation." Maya hesitated, then answered, on speaker. "Hello, Catherine." "Miss Chen." Catherine's voice was different now, stripped of its usual imperious tone. It sounded almost defeated. "We need to talk." "About what?" Maya asked coldly. "About how you kept my grandsons from me. About how you sabotaged every attempt I made to contact your son. There's nothing to talk about, Catherine. I'm done being bullied by you." "I'm not trying to bully you," Catherine said. And for the first time in the 3 years Maya had known her, she sounded sincere. "I'm trying to apologize." Maya nearly dropped the phone. Ethan's eyes went wide with shock. His mother didn't apologize. Ever. It simply wasn't in her nature. "I'm listening," Maya said cautiously. "I was wrong," Catherine said, each word seeming to cost her immense effort. "I thought I was protecting my son, protecting our family legacy. I thought love wasn't enough to build a life on, that he needed someone from the right background, the right family. But seeing those boys today, seeing Ethan's face when he realized what I'd kept from him, I understand now that I didn't protect anything. I destroyed it." Maya felt Ethan grab her hand, squeezing it tight. Neither of them spoke. Catherine continued, her voice growing thick with emotion. "Those children, Oliver and Leo, they're Whitmores. They have my late husband's eyes, my son's smile. They're my legacy, the real legacy, not money or business deals. And I kept them from Ethan. I kept them from myself. I can never undo that, and I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm asking, begging really, for the chance to know them, to be their grandmother, if you'll allow it. Not to take them from you or control them, but simply to love them the way I should have from the beginning." Maya looked at Ethan, silently asking what he thought. His face was conflicted, pain and hope warring for dominance. "It's your call," he said quietly. "They're your sons. You've protected them this whole time. I trust your judgment." Maya took a deep breath. "Catherine, I appreciate the apology. I do. But apologies are just words. If you want to be part of their lives, you're going to have to prove that you've changed. That means respecting my rules, my boundaries, and my authority as their mother. That means no manipulation, no power plays, no trying to buy their affection with expensive gifts. And if you ever try to undermine me or hurt them, you'll never see them again. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear," Catherine said. "Thank you, Maya. Thank you for being a better person than I deserve." The call ended, and Maya sat in silence for a moment, processing what had just happened. "Did that really just happen?" she asked Ethan. "Did your mother actually apologize?" "I think hell might have frozen over," Ethan said with a shaky laugh. "But Maya, you don't have to let her in. Not after everything she did." "I know," Maya said. "But those boys deserve to know their family. All of it. The good, the bad, and the complicated. As long as Catherine respects the boundaries, I think we owe it to Oliver and Leo to try." Over the next 3 months, a new normal slowly took shape. Ethan came by 4 times a week at first, then daily, becoming a fixture in Oliver and Leo's lives. He learned that Leo loved dinosaurs, and Oliver was obsessed with space. He figured out that they needed their sandwiches cut into triangles, not squares, and that they absolutely would not go to sleep without their stuffed elephant, Mr. Trunks. Catherine, to everyone's surprise, kept her word. She visited once a week, always calling first, always bringing modest gifts like books or art supplies instead of the ponies and sports cars she probably wanted to buy. She sat on the floor and played blocks. She read stories. She learned to be Grandma Catherine instead of Victoria Whitmore, society matriarch. The change in her was remarkable, though Maya never fully let her guard down. One evening, about 4 months after the infamous wedding, Ethan arrived with takeout from the Thai place Maya loved. The boys were already in their pajamas, and Maya had just finished reading them a bedtime story. "Can I put them to bed tonight?" Ethan asked. Maya nodded, and she listened from the living room as Ethan went through the routine she taught him. Teeth brushed, check. Mr. Trunks located, check. Nightlight on, check. Then she heard him reading a story, using different voices for different characters, making the boys giggle. When he emerged from their room 20 minutes later, quietly closing the door, he looked exhausted but happy. "They're out," he reported. "Leo tried to negotiate for another story, but I held firm." "You're getting good at this," Maya said, accepting the container of pad thai he handed her. "You're a natural dad." "I had a good teacher," Ethan said, sitting beside her on the couch. "Maya, I've been thinking." "About what?" "About us. About where we go from here." Maya's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Ethan, we agreed to focus on the boys." "I know, and I have been. They're the most important thing. But Maya, I still love you. I never stopped loving you. These past few months, being here with you and them, it's made me realize what I lost, what I threw away because I was too weak to stand up to my mother." Maya set down her food, her appetite suddenly gone. "Ethan, that's not fair. You can't just waltz back into my life after 3 years and expect—" "I'm not expecting anything," Ethan interrupted gently. "I'm just telling you the truth. You've built an incredible life, Maya. You're an amazing mother, a successful architect, and you did it all without anyone's help. You're the strongest person I know. And I'm not asking you to take me back or trust me or anything like that. I just needed you to know that if you ever, maybe someday, wanted to try again, I would spend the rest of my life making sure you never regretted it." Maya felt tears welling up. Part of her, the part that had loved him so completely 3 years ago, wanted to say yes, immediately. But the part that had survived his abandonment, that had sat in a clinic alone and scared, that had worked double shifts while pregnant with twins, that part was more cautious. "I don't know if I can trust you not to leave again," she said honestly. "If things get hard, if your mother causes problems, if society judges us, I need to know you won't run." "I won't run," Ethan said firmly. "I can't prove that with words, only with time. But Maya, I've already lost 3 years with my sons. I'm not losing another minute of whatever future I could have with this family. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere." 6 months after the wedding, the news broke that Catherine Whitmore was stepping down as CEO of Whitmore Industries. She appointed a neutral board to run the company and announced she was taking a sabbatical to focus on family. The society pages buzzed with speculation, but those who knew the truth understood. Catherine was trying to make amends, the only way she knew how, by stepping back from the things she'd valued above everything else. Around the same time, Isabella Rothschild announced her engagement to a marine biologist she'd met while volunteering at an aquarium. In an interview, she thanked Maya for saving her from a loveless marriage, though they'd never actually spoken since the wedding. The internet, predictably, had turned the whole saga into a sensation. Team Maya had millions of followers, and Oliver and Leo's faces, carefully obscured in the videos, had launched 1,000 memes about karma and justice. Maya tried to ignore it, focusing instead on her real life. 1 year after the wedding that never was, Ethan took Oliver and Leo to the park, just the 3 of them. Maya had been hesitant at first, but Ethan had proven himself reliable time and time again. He'd never missed a visit, never broken a promise, never let the boys down. While they were gone, Maya's doorbell rang. She opened it to find Catherine, standing there, looking older somehow, softer. "Catherine," Maya said, surprised. "This isn't your day." "I know," Catherine said. "I was hoping we could talk, just the 2 of us." Maya hesitated, then stepped aside. They sat in the living room, an awkward silence stretching between them. Finally, Catherine spoke. "I've been seeing a therapist," she said abruptly, "for the past 8 months, working through a lot of things about control and fear, and my late husband's death. It's been illuminating and painful." "That's good," Maya said carefully, unsure where this was going. "I'm glad you're getting help." "The therapist asked me to make amends to the people I've hurt," Catherine continued. "Real amends, not just words. And I realized that apologizing to you that one time wasn't enough. I need you to understand why I did what I did, even though it doesn't excuse it." Maya nodded for her to continue. "When my husband died," Catherine said, her voice shaking slightly, "he left me with a company on the verge of collapse, a young son, and a society that was waiting to see me fail. I was 28 years old and terrified. I rebuilt Whitmore Industries through sheer force of will, sacrificing everything personal for professional success. I raised Ethan the same way, teaching him that legacy and duty mattered more than personal happiness. I truly believed I was helping him. Then he met you, and I saw how happy you made him, how he'd light up when you called, how he'd talk about your dreams and your plans together. And instead of being happy for him, I was terrified. Terrified that he'd choose you and lose everything I'd built. Terrified that history would repeat itself and he'd be left alone and struggling like I was. So I destroyed it. I destroyed his chance at happiness because I was afraid." Maya felt an unexpected surge of empathy. She'd never thought about Catherine as anything other than a villain, but hearing her story, seeing her vulnerability, it complicated things. "I understand being afraid," Maya said quietly. "I was terrified when I found out I was pregnant with twins. Terrified I couldn't do it alone. But Catherine, you have to understand that your fear doesn't justify what you did to us. To Ethan. To those boys." "I know," Catherine said, tears streaming down her face now. "I know, and I have to live with that. But I'm trying to be better. For them. For Ethan. And Maya. For you too. You've shown me what real strength looks like, and I'm grateful to you for letting me be part of their lives." The two women sat in silence for a moment, years of hurt and anger slowly beginning to heal. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. "Ethan wants to propose to you again," Catherine said suddenly, a small smile playing at her lips. "He's been agonizing over it for weeks." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "He told you that?" "He didn't have to," Catherine said. "I'm his mother. I can tell. And Maya, if he does ask, and if you say yes, you have my blessing. My genuine, wholehearted blessing. Not because you're from the right family or have the right connections, but because you're the right person. You make him happy. You've made him a better man. And you've given me the most precious gifts in the world, those 2 little boys who call me grandma and hug me without reservation. I don't deserve this second chance, but I'm grateful for it every day." "Thank you," Maya said, surprised to find she meant it. 2 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, Ethan took Maya to the same small coffee shop where they'd had their first date 5 years earlier. Oliver and Leo were with Catherine, who'd planned an elaborate day at the Children's Museum. It was just the two of them, sitting across from each other at a small table, drinking overpriced lattes. "This feels familiar," Maya said with a smile. "Nervous guy, beautiful girl, terrible coffee," Ethan agreed. "Though I think the coffee has actually gotten worse." They talked for an hour about everything and nothing, falling into the easy conversation they'd always had. Finally, Ethan took her hand across the table. "Maya," he said seriously, "these past 18 months have been the best of my life, even with all the chaos and adjustment. Watching you with our sons, seeing the life you've built, being allowed to be part of it. It's more than I ever deserved. I know I hurt you. I know I let you down when you needed me most. And I know that trust isn't rebuilt overnight. But I love you, Maya Chen. I loved you 5 years ago. I loved you 3 years ago when I was too weak to fight for us. And I love you now. I don't want to be just Oliver and Leo's dad. I want to be your partner, your husband, your person for whatever comes next. He slid off his chair and onto one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. The other coffee shop patrons started to notice, phones coming out, but Maya barely registered them. "Will you marry me?" Ethan asked. "Not because my mother approves, though she does. Not because it makes sense on paper or merges the right families, but because I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me with your heart again." Maya looked at the ring, a simple, elegant diamond that caught the light. She looked at Ethan, his eyes hopeful and terrified. She thought about the past 3 years, the struggle and the triumph. She thought about the past 18 months, watching him become the father their sons deserved. She thought about the future, all the possibilities stretching ahead. The answer, when it came, felt inevitable. "Yes," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." The coffee shop erupted in applause. Ethan stood and kissed her, and for the first time in years, Maya felt completely, perfectly whole. Their wedding, when it happened 6 months later, was nothing like the spectacle Catherine had planned. It was small and intimate, held in Maya's parents' backyard with fairy lights strung through the trees. Oliver and Leo served as ring bearers, walking down the aisle with perfect seriousness before breaking into giggles halfway through. Catherine sat in the front row, tissues in hand, looking genuinely happy. Isabella came with her marine biologist fiancé, and she and Maya shared a laugh about how much better this had turned out. When the minister asked if anyone objected, Oliver raised his hand. Everyone froze. Oliver looked around at the silent crowd and announced loudly, "I object to not having cake yet. Can we have cake now?" The tension broke with laughter, and the ceremony continued. As Maya and Ethan exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising partnership and trust and love, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She'd walked into a wedding a year ago, intending to reveal a truth, to get justice, to show Catherine Whitmore that she couldn't be broken. She'd succeeded beyond her wildest dreams. But the real victory wasn't in Catherine's downfall, or the viral videos, or the public vindication. The real victory was standing right here, in this moment, with her sons playing in the grass, and the man she loved promising to be her partner for life. Sometimes, Maya thought, as Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, the best revenge is simply building a beautiful life and inviting your enemies to witness it. And if they learn something along the way, if they grow and change and become better people, well, that's not revenge at all. That's redemption. And redemption, Maya was learning, felt even better than revenge. If you enjoyed this story of second chances, justice, and love conquering all, please hit that like button and share it with someone who believes in happy endings. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories and leave a comment below telling us what you would have done in Maya's situation. Would you have given Ethan a second chance? Let us know. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best way to win is simply to live well.